Now, here comes the music.
You got a beat for me?
This one's explosive.
And right now we'd like to introduce the
Fast, funky, and furious, and in full effect.
Music, please. Soul, funk, hip-hop, and house.
Roger, copy.
Stand by for all of this and more.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am proud to present DJ Adnan the Great.
Real Talk Radio with Dan Lane. I'm just doing this little segment here because I sent an email to my local news station here in Abilene expressing my concerns on the current rhetoric about gun control, and I was ignored and pushed to the side. And it's probably because I have what they would refer to as an alt-right conservative point of view concerning firearms and gun ban and all this crazy stuff like that. But they had no problem going to the March for Our Lives here in local Abilene, where they were taking very close-up video footages of little 4-year-olds holding up signs like examples, like stop the violence, stop guns, ban NRA, things like that, using children to push their narrative. Meanwhile, we got a very serious problem, and they choose to ignore it. So I'm going to address it since they obviously don't care. Wasn't nothing to them. They want to hone in on stupid things. And I understand we have child pedophilia going on. I understand we have dog fighting going on. I understand, we have to have pie eating contests and stuff like that. But there's real stuff going on in the world, man. There's real things going on in our town. And every single time you say, well, so-and-so was busted with 3 ounces of marijuana, whatever, all you're doing is validating that the war on drugs was a sham, another tax scam. That's all you're doing. You got to cover some other news. People are starting to lose focus. They're starting to lose. I'm watching your numbers drop. I'm looking at them right now. I'm seeing a bunch of people ridiculing your news sources that you post on your own Facebook page. I mean, you would think that you guys would care about this, but obviously you don't, because it's clear to me that you're not out there doing real journalism. What you're doing is you're just reporting what AP says, what CNN says. Now you're on the bandwagon with anti-Trump. Trump's doing this, Trump's doing that. You're not even worried about the politicians that are lobbying to take away firearms. You don't even seem to care about that. That concerns me. That really, really concerns me. And it seems to me like you guys would think that we have bigger things we need to home in about. So I'm going to read off the email that I sent to KTXS that was obviously put on the back burner because they have much more important things to talk about, like, new restaurants, go down to Taco Bell, get this. Have you ever tried this? Dog fights, stupid, repetitive stuff, drug bust. They'll be the first to post if anybody goes to jail for anything. They'll put their mugshot up there. Well, so-and-so was arrested for violation for failure to identify. Stupid things like that, but they won't talk about what's really going on in the world. I mean, I understand we have these problems. But anyway, getting back to where I'm going. I'm reading this off. So this is the email, the email that I have blogged everywhere. Thank God it's getting a lot of attention. And here it is. The email read, "To whom it may concern, my name is Dan Lane, and I host a podcast here out of Abilene, Texas." Excuse me. A lot of my rants are political, as well as most of my following. I have to say that the current rhetoric about gun control and the need to stop the NRA has me a little concerned. The fact that kids are now being used as weaponized propaganda to further their agenda to eventually ban all firearms is rather gut-wrenching. It is clear that the younger generation in America know nothing about history of governments banning guns. Not to mention what transpired after the banning of the guns. I'd like to give you my take on the assault rifle, in quotations, problem that we have in this country. First, there is no such thing as an assault rifle. The AR-15, AK-47, etc. are cosmetically... I'm trying to skip that because I kind of went off the deep end a little bit there. Cosmetically similar to a military-style weapon, but it's not a military-style weapon. They're nothing more than semi-automatic rifles. It is nothing more than the appearance that give these concerned citizens the creeps. In case it is unclear, the semi-automatic rifle in question operate in the same manner as any other semi-automatic rifle. Regardless of the current consensus, it is not a military weapon nor a weapon of war. A lot of people are saying that the AR-15 was built for no purpose other than to kill people. But what about the other semi-autos that don't look so scary but operate in the same manner? Definition of assault. Verb. Make a physical attack on. Attack or bombard someone or the senses with something undesirable or unpleasant. Which Britain learned could also be a knife after the gun ban in 1997. Carry out a military attack or raid on an enemy position. Rape. Now, the last time I checked, inanimate objects aren't capable of assault, but by the person using that object. So in retrospect, all rifles can be termed as assault rifles. Now, here is where the concerns come in. I find it hard to believe that these anti-gun protesters, as well as members of the Congress that are pushing for the ban on certain guns, really think that that will stop gun deaths. Let's evaluate a scenario here. They are successful at let's say they're successful at banning the AR-15 or any other firearm they view as an assault weapon. What's going to happen when little Billy goes into his father's gun cabinet and decides to go shoot up his classroom with a couple of Glock 9mm, which are also semi-automatic, by the way? How would they propose to handle that problem as more and more shootings are carried out with handguns, just like it was in the 1970s? Well, it's simple. We have to ban those now. So do you guys see where this is going? If they can successfully ban one type of firearm, they will eventually be able to ban them all. Certain members of the Democratic Party have openly stated that if they could take all of the firearms, they would. Just a list of thoughts on gun control. 1, it's not about controlling the gun. The gun isn't the one out of control. 2, enforcing stricter gun laws have done nothing but make the purchase of firearms easier for the criminals and harder for the law-abiding citizens as the black market expands with every new law that is placed. Refer to Chicago, Illinois. 3, the average police response time in the mass shooting events have ranged between 8 to 12 minutes from the time the first bullet is fired or more so acknowledged and the 911 call is made. They argue that we should rely on the police in a moment where seconds count. They seem to forget that the police shoot and kill people as well, but let's put all of our trust in them. How many unarmed people were killed by the police just last year? How many dead children you think would happen before they arrive? So obviously I support allowing teachers to be commissioned if they so choose to be. Let it be clear that the politicians that are trying to sell this garbage, they have commissioned security, by the way. Let's just know that. Mark Zuckerberg, for example. Yeah, he's totally anti-gun, but he showed up, for his testimony before Congress, surrounded by armed guards, but he's so anti-gun. Number 4, they allege that banning these assault rifles will minimize the number of deaths in the event of a mass shooting because they are capable of holding up to 100 rounds. So I guess if the crazed shooter went in there with only 20 rounds, that would be better. I suppose at the end of the day, 10 children is less tragic than 20. Are these people being serious? By that assertion alone, you have to admit that it's not a gun problem, it's a people problem. They want to ban people that are on psych medications from being able to legally purchase a firearm. This is number 5. Here we go again. Nothing is to stop them from getting them illegal. Nothing. They can get them illegally off the streets all day, and you're not going to be able to get rid of them. That's just the way it is. And what about the veterans that return home from war? Veterans come back with PTSD because they've endured the travesties of war, and they had to take psych meds in order to keep sleep at night and forget their dreams. Many of those cases, are we going to disarm? We're going to disarm them when they come back, when they fought to protect the Constitution? Imagine their reaction. To protect our supposed freedoms that politicians are steadily trying to chip away at. Meanwhile, it means the very people that are running this country that are taking. So, in retrospect, it's the people running the country that are the enemy. They are the domestic terrorists, not the NRA. the reality check the veteran will get when he or she comes home and learns that these tyrants have gutted the Second Amendment when they fought to protect it. That's just a thought. So in closing, I think that news outlets ought to stop covering these events and worry more about bigger problems in the country. They accuse the NRA of buying off Republicans and conservatives to remain in business, but they don't seem to complain about Planned Parenthood. How much money have they given to the Democrats? None of that seems to matter to them while they claim to be pro-life. Why don't they attack the pharmaceutical companies that produce the very drugs that are making people suicidal and violent? We all seen the commercials and the side effects in the law firm commercials that seem to come out 10 years later. Or how about putting a stop to the 130,000 people that die from infections on hospital beds due to malpractice? The list goes on and on. So I'm calling out KTXS. I offered an off-the-record interview. I would love to interview you or be interviewed and have a little bit more of a broader perspective on what's really going on here. That's just my way of thinking. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just this evil alt-right patriot that ought to not have any say-so whatsoever. Because I stand with my constitutional rights. I stand with the red, white, and blue. I stand with my God-given rights to freedom. Not to put them in the hands of tyrants that have repeatedly went around the globe being bought off, stripping people of their freedoms, blah, blah, blah. The answer is right here, people. 1776. That's the answer. And there is no gray area with this. There's no gray area. You can't stand on the fence. You can't say, well, I'm on the fence with guns. No, you either support the Constitution or you don't. If you're on the fence, that means if you're lukewarm, you obviously need a little bit more education. Or maybe you just rather bury your head in the sand and forget it and just, ignorance is bliss. I don't know. Most people, tend to do that these days. Now, you got the youth out there. These kids know nothing about the firearms they're pushing to ban. Nothing. Probably never shot one a day in their life. And the very fact that the kids, most of them, have come out and testified they didn't want to participate in the school walkout. They didn't want to. So a lot of these people, they believed in guns. They believe in the Second Amendment, but they're being forced to and penalized if they don't participate. That is fascism, people. That's fascism at its finest. It's a dictatorship. You're brainwashing the youth, and that's all there is to it. Now, I could bring a lot more evidence to the table, but I'm very, very curious as to how many Abilene residents are going to share this around, how many people are going to get tagged. I'm curious if KTXS is actually going to contact me, because I'm going to keep coming after them until they do. We're going to have a conversation. They want to go out there and go all left crazy. Let's go all right crazy. Let's try to meet in the middle somewhere. Because to me, if we can't have a debate, we don't have a democracy. It's a one-way street. Our way or the highway. We don't care what you think. We're going to ban your guns. We're going to take away your guns. Yeah, over my goddamn body. So, there it is, people. I'm calling them out because they chose to ignore, but they're going to be reminded really, really quick.
Real Talk Radio.